Welcome to the monthly virtual infertility workshop. I'm so glad you're here. If you're new, hey, I'm Kristen or Kiki, and I'm an infertility coach. I help women reduce the stress, anxiety, and fear associated with IVF so they can go through the process hopeful, supported, and with no regrets. Each month, I invite an infertility expert to dive deep into one area related to infertility. They share about the medical side, and I share about the emotional side. Sign up at this link to be notified about future infertility workshops so that you can join us live, and you can also get the replay sent directly to your inbox. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the monthly virtual infertility workshop. This month, I'm so excited to have Heather Smith from Juliet, the ovulation and pregnancy test maker for the modern mom-to-be. Did I get it right?
Sure, that works.
Yay, okay, good. And just some housekeeping rules. This is something that I do every month. It's a way to bring some real education, real facts and information to you to kind of help you not have to go down the Google wormhole when you're doing research through your infertility practice. But it's also a combination of the body and the mind and the emotional aspect, because infertility really does impact us in all of it. And as a life coach who's specializes in working with women going through infertility, this matters to me. And when I was going through my own journey, I would have loved to have access to specialists and experts all over the world to get access to them and have the opportunity to ask questions. And then at the end, I stay on and we turn it into a support group, because that's also the other part of this is there we really need a community aspect while we're going through such a hard thing. So that's when you guys turn on your cameras and join us for that. So I'm so glad you're here. This is a safe space. This is a space where we support each other. Nothing but kindness. There's no stupid questions. It is a place for you to be exactly as you are. All emotions and feelings are welcome as long as they're coming from a place of kindness and support with other people. So now that I've gotten all that housekeeping out of the way, if anybody's watching on the Facebook Live, whether it's on the replay, I would love for you to comment with any questions. We will absolutely take those. And just for a little bit of history, because I do see a couple new faces and names here, I started this workshop in April of 2020 with Dr. Likes because he was going to offer to meet people at locally at a bar to kind of pick his brain and ask questions. And then we all got told we weren't allowed to do that anymore. So I invited him to take it online, and I've continued it since. We've had different experts. We talk about one specific topic, and it's really been valuable to people who come, and we're so glad to be doing this month after month. And I'm just glad you're here, whether this is your first time or your 10th. So all of that being said, Heather, thank you for coming here and joining. Do you want to give a little bit more of an intro about your story?
Yeah, sure. So I conceived my daughter using fertility treatments. And, one of the questions I get is, why I started Juliet. And I think like so many entrepreneurs, we start because we experience a big problem. And so, it was when I was considering having a second child, and I was looking at donor profiles on the internet, like late at night. And I joked that it was like the new Tinder for me, but it really was. I had lots of donor profiles. I was checking them out late at night. And there became a point where I was kind of struck by how much I dreaded. And it wasn't only the medicine, it was and the treatments that would accompany my journey, but it was also that I didn't want to go to the grocery store. I didn't want to buy the pregnancy test. I didn't want to do a whole lot of things because it felt really impersonal, and it didn't feel like those companies really cared about me. And so I started to ask all of my friends about, their experience, and they too hated the experience of purchasing pregnancy tests. And so my background is in women's rights as a lawyer and nonprofit executive. And so I really just wanted to create a process and an experience that felt empowering to women. At one point, I was like, why are we settling for this experience? We don't have to. We can demand a lot more. And so I set out to build that experience.
I mean, what you're speaking about is so common. It's not something that only you experienced, and it can feel so isolating going through any type of fertility treatments already. So then the aspect you're talking about going to the grocery store and having to buy a box and have everybody know, it's like you found such a small little area to make your mark. And I think it's just wonderful. And I love hearing that story. Because I'm curious though, because there are big companies that everybody knows the names of. I mean, they have nationwide commercials. And so I'm curious how you felt like you could compete with these big box companies.
Yeah, I mean, I think I went into it not trying to compete with the big boxes. They offer is a pregnancy test, and I want to offer something that is so much more than that. You know, the test is what we need, but the support and the affirmations that we're enough and we're valuable and we're, just fierce as women and totally completely capable of doing whatever we set our mind to. That's what I offer. So people can buy pregnancy tests everywhere. There's the technology is pretty basic, and but what I wanted with Juliet is that when women unwrap a Juliet test, they get hit by these messages of worth, saying that you're enough, you're valid, this is your journey, whatever it looks like, that's perfect, you're on the right path. And so I wanted women to not I want them to take the deep breath and say, I've got this, regardless of these results, this is going to give me an answer to get to my next step, instead of saying, oh my God, another pregnancy test.
I love that. It's also a way for someone to get support in like such a vital moment. I get a lot of phone calls from clients and stuff when they're in that moment of waiting for the results, like the 3 minutes, waiting until it comes back and says if it's positive or negative. And so knowing that like the packaging in the box with the instructions that you look at 7 times, no matter how many times you've taken a pregnancy test on like, how long do you keep it in to get it wet to make it work? So to know that your packaging is included with messaging that's offering that support as well in such a time of need is, I think, just so valuable, because not everybody's going to work with a coach. Not everybody's going to have a support group that they go to and open up with. So for those special women who really have not opened up to many people at all, I love that you can offer that in that moment. I think it's like the coolest thing ever. Do you just like go to bed so happy that you're making such an impact?
The messages that I was in tears, when we sold out in a matter of hours, I was in tears most of the time, because not only had we, it had been, I had an idea that people said there wasn't a market for. And I was getting told again and again that there aren't enough people that will need this service. The infertility community is so small, and I knew that wasn't true, because they knew that the infertility that was really outspoken or maybe more public might be smaller, but we all know that there are a lot of people that are just less public. And this, I don't know. I was told that might not work, and I knew that this community was worth investing in, and that's what I wanted to do, is find something that made us feel better, make something that made us feel better. But yeah.
Yeah. Well,
and that's been wonderful.
Sorry. No, I think it's so good. And I'm sorry I interrupted, but I think that's also why what happened last month was really cool, because I saw that a woman on Instagram posted a picture of a pregnancy test and pretty much called out the big box companies and was like, can we please have a fertility discount? We are your audience. We're the ones who are not just buying one test. We're buying loads and loads month after month. And they're too expensive. Isn't there a way to give a discount? And she then shared how she got a response from the different companies, and then also what you said. So do you want to share how you kind of responded to her message?
Yeah, I think I was pretty early in seeing it, and I was, I think on a Saturday morning, maybe scrolling from my bed, and I just said, I'm in. We'll offer buy one get one pregnancy tests, and I expected a handful of women would see it and maybe take us up on it. And what happened later was, unexpected and beautiful. But it's nice to have met a need in a community that needs a lot of things, right? But to be able to, as a woman-owned company, We only hire IVF warriors, right? Like nobody works for us that doesn't understand infertility. And, I think that was always important to me, is that the messaging and the words mattered.
That's really important. And I think that's something that can be carried over to so many other aspects. I mean, even the doctor's practices and the facilities, I hear from some of my clients, it's like they love the way the nurses or even the finance department talks to them as if they understand what it means and what they're going through. And then there's other practices where they feel like a number and it doesn't matter. And there's been no acknowledgement. Like I remember when I had my DNC for my miscarriage, and I went in for the procedure, and literally I had to say 5 times to 5 different nurses and staff at that hospital to say, they were like, why are you here today? And the fact that I had to say it 5 times was like the worst, right? Like, come on, guys, do you not know what this means? And I'm sure medically there's a reason to make sure I'm getting the right procedure, not getting my knee surgery, knee replaced. But I just feel like being aware of the sensitivities of the emotional side of what people are going through can go so far. Like you had shared with me, you weren't planning to launch the company in sales until February.
Right. We were just testing message making. I wanted, I mentioned earlier that before the live, that I was really focused on the community. And so, we had the products that was fine and well, but I wanted to launch with the community, and I wanted to make sure that every aspect of the company felt approachable and true for women that were experiencing fertility. And so I was really in, a testing mode. And the community, I would never change it. I would have a community launch my company every single time given the option, because my plan was out the door. But I think it feels good to have it be validated by a community that I knew existed and other people had doubted.
Right. Yeah. And I love what you said, though, even about your plan being out the door. I mean, hello, everybody going through infertility. Have any of us gone from step A, point A to all the way to Z without any changes in the plans? Probably not. I don't know anybody who really was able to go all the way through.
Oh.
So plans changing is so common.
Right.
So maybe you had experience when you were trying to conceive your daughter, but yeah, sometimes it's a blessing though too when that does happen, when your plans get thrown off and it turns out better than we expected. So, if you're listening and you're going through something right now and it's not as you planned, like, I don't know, maybe this means it's just something better is along the way, just like what happened with Heather and the Juliet company. Yeah, it's really cool. What she did was Heather responded to that message, said I'm in, and she offered the BOGO offer. And the other companies, one said sign up for Amazon, like subscribe and save. And the other one said, I think maybe like sorry. Oh. And so I just think it shows the difference of the impact of working with somebody in any manner related to what you're going through, who understands what you're going through. And that's one of the reasons why I became a life coach, was because I wanted to talk to somebody who understood. And there's so much value in that. And to know that like the pregnancy test company is sending me messages that says, you're awesome. Like, do you have any packaging right now so you can show some people who aren't familiar?
I wonder if it'll be backwards, though.
No, it shouldn't be backwards.
Okay.
It's not.
See, I don't know how the internet works. But this is just a pregnancy test. It says this is a pregnancy test. It will not tell you whether you are good enough, worthy of love, or on the right path. You are. Love, Juliet. And then I know it kind of makes me cry, because like reading those things, like the words really mattered. Every word we really put a lot of heart into coming up with the words so that women would feel supported during some sometimes difficult moments.
Well, I think it's, I'm not taking any pregnancy tests anymore, but I think that could have changed the impact of having to pee on a stick and not getting the results I wanted.
Yeah, because it can feel really lonely and isolating. Being on this pregnancy test is not going to be like a delight, right? Because it's still a pregnancy test, mm-hmm. and you still have to take them. But if we can make it a little bit better so that you're just kind of like centered and in a way of saying, this is one test and it means a lot to me, but the outcome doesn't have to define me as a woman.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the fact that you know that already too, and can say that and share that with other people, can be making a huge difference in someone's world. And I think you're seeing that with the messages you get from the clients who buy your products. Even already, I mean, a month in.
I know, yeah. It's been really exciting. I think that the messages are my favorite part of work now. It's like, I'm like, well, I have to read the messages. The messages are my favorite. And I respond to every single one of them. And you know, because this community is close to my heart. They always have been.
Yeah.
It's a community that helped me through infertility when I was trying to conceive my daughter. And you know, you mentioned those ups and downs. Like, I wish I would have had you. I wish I would have had someone who was able to understand the acronyms and the timing and the words, you know, like what's a PIO? What, you know, what is that? You don't know that unless you've gone through it. And like a counseling session with someone who doesn't understand infertility, you're explaining the acronyms and the language and the process, you know, when it would just be nice if they knew that already. And then you were just straight in support mode.
Yeah, I found that myself. My friends group was awesome and so supportive, but I still felt like something was missing because I would spend half the time on the phone crying in tears, but explaining and teaching more so than being able to like vent about it or process the emotions. And so that's why, like you were saying, there was a gap. And when I was going through my process in 2015, there wasn't even like, I didn't even know that there were life coaches who focused on this and there was support options. So I love to know that there are other people out there. I'm not the only one, and that there's a lot of ways to find support now. And this is one of them. And I love that this is a tool that I've created to help, again, fill that void in a way that people can join from wherever they are. You know, sometimes you're not in a place where it's as open, but you can still have that privacy too, because that was important to me too, was I wasn't about to just, you know, put out on my social feed what we were going through.
Yeah. And at some point, I don't know if you found this, but I remember there was a point, and it was probably really vivid, where I knew that I needed to talk to other people. And my friends and my family were saying things like, I know such and such, and it happened this way for them after they stopped trying, and like a wide array of offensive things. And at some point, it was like protecting my mental health and being like, these are people who love me and care about me, but they don't know what to say to like support me. And so I needed professional help just to find someone who would say the right things. And then, you know, in the Instagram, and at the time when I was conceiving, it was probably more so on Facebook, but finding women who were going through the same, a similar journey that I was, on the internet provided so much more support than, you know, some of my family and friends who still loved me. But
Right. Yeah. I gave a speech to a MOPS group, so the moms of preschoolers, about, I don't know, a couple years ago. And it was after my infertility. Well, actually, I was pregnant with my second pregnancy in our sibling cycle. And I was sharing how to be a good friend because I had been through hard things. And what I found was through each of life's milestones that were hard, I knew who had been through it before, just like you were saying, by the way they spoke, by the words they used. You could tell if somebody had lost a family member, if somebody had gone through a divorce, or I always say got unmarried. You could, you know, people who had gone through infertility or miscarriage and loss and who knew that struggle. And so I shared how to be the right supportive friend and told everybody in that room that I'm sorry is a complete sentence. And I wish the whole world knew that. And the wild thing is, I gave that whole speech on how to be a good friend, and I gave lots of different examples of things to do and for certain challenges in life. And I shared that I was really early pregnant with this second baby, and about a month later, I lost the baby, and that's when I had to have the D&C. And let me tell you, I had never been supported so much in my life, because the 100 women in that room that actually showed up and did all the things I talked about. So I was floored. And so it showed me that our friends and family and the people in our world, they care and they want to help. They just don't know better. But when you're in the throes of it and when you're under the hormonal impact and pressure, if they say the wrong things, it tends to send us off on the wrong place, like where we're so critical that they say the wrong thing. And I think it's maybe a defense mechanism, or I think it's just because we're in that grief of that moment of grief. But when they're armed and they know what to do and what to say, they'll do it. And so that's another thing that I'm trying to do is like, I will talk to anybody on how to be a good friend so that it can help one other IVF warrior not be told, just relax, it'll happen.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And if we all got paid like $1 every time that happened, like that would help cover some of the fees for infertility too. So you talk a lot about people's value based on the results of the test. And I'm guessing it's because you had that own experience where you saw negative tests. And what were the thoughts that sort of went through your mind at that point when you were kind of questioning it?
I was placing so much value on the outcome of a test. And I think part of it comes back to how we are raised as women, and that our value is in pleasing, and and our bodies working a certain way, and one way being that we're going to have children, from as soon as well, for me anyway, it was just like right around as soon as you get your first boyfriend in college, we'll say that, or girlfriend, and you're saying and they're like, well, it goes serious, and then are you going to have a baby? What those inappropriate questions. But I think we're conditioned to feel judgment and sometimes shame and some pressure around how we use our bodies, and so I think it starts there. But it was like just wrapped up in my head, like, what if this doesn't work? Like, what's the is always forward thinking of okay, if this doesn't work, then what's my plan A or my plan B, C, and D? And then, you could like chart it off, and I'd be like, follow the lines to get to the result. But I wanted to know, I wanted some certainty. And I think maybe attaching that certainty to a pregnancy test, now that I think about it. But now that I'm older and looking to have a second child, and knowing that I will need fertility treatments, I want to be present in that moment. I want to like acknowledge that I worked my tail off to get to that point. And like, I put my body through hell to get there, and I did my best. And so at this point, I have done every single thing that I can do to try to get pregnant this month. And the outcome on this test is not going to define whether I worked really hard for that, and also whether I want it the next month. I get to decide what it looks like for me.
I think that's so wonderful and lovely. And it's something I work on with a lot of my my clients, because I think so many, like you said, so many women put too much value on that. And to get to even that point, to get to the point of taking the pregnancy test when you're going through infertility treatments, there's a long road before that. Like you said, there are so many steps and bumps along the way. And to get to that point where you're finding out if it worked or not, to not have a plan B or C. And what I find is that the anxiety and the fears that we have come because of the lack of certainty, but they also come because we doubt our ability to handle what might happen, what will come down the road. And so our human instinct is to try and then plan more to take care of the uncertainty, instead of putting the faith and effort into our belief that we're capable of handling anything. And so I can tell that you're resilient and you've been through hard things because of the way you're speaking. Because at the end of the day, you will be okay. It might not be what you want in the moment, and it might still be really freaking hard. That doesn't take away, but that you'll figure it out, and you'll get to the next step, and you'll make it happen, whatever it is. And sometimes that means we have to adjust course. Not all of us grew up thinking we were going to need IVF to become moms. I naively told my little sisters I would be a surrogate for them when I was in college. I mean, shit. I feel like the stupidest person ever, because they both popped out babies before me, had no problems. And here I'm being like, if you ever have trouble, I would carry a baby for you. Oh, so silly. But like, we don't think we're going to get there. So there's the process of acceptance to even have to go and get medical assistance. And then there's levels of medical assistance too. So we've got to, the progress of going through there too. So to get to the day where you're getting the test and finding out, there's a lot of pressure.
Right.
And I love what you're talking about plan B and plan C and plan D, because we were saying before we started recording, my mom was a flight attendant. And for those of y'all who've been here before, I've probably shared this, but she said that if you prepare for the worst, it doesn't happen, which, because in an airplane, as a flight attendant, every flight, they talk about oxygen masks being needed because of pressure, cabin pressure, and landing in water and where your life vest is. And if that happened as often as they talked about on a plane, nobody would fly, right? It very rarely happens. So that's been my mom's motto. And so every step of the infertility journey, my husband and I, ahead of time, we would talk about what plan B would be and plan C. Because also the way your brain works is, unless you're in that moment, you can be more open-minded and you can actually consider more options. But when you've just found out that it's like a no or it's a roadblock, your mind is focused one way and you cannot see any other option or possibility. And it can take a little bit of that pressure off of what causes the anxiety associated with taking the test by having some of that certainty, in the sense of knowing, okay, we'll try again, or we have more embryos, or maybe it's time to upgrade to having donor eggs or embryos, something like that.
Right. At the end of the test, you have options, right, in any direction, regardless of what it looks like. And there's something you said, I was thinking about how, like embracing or, honoring the feelings that come up, regardless of whatever that result is. And I think, for us in the infertility community, like we get a ton of no's, like we get too many no's when other people are getting yeses. And so just honoring that those no's really hurt. The loss hurts, all of it hurts like hell. And it's okay to like just kind of be in the feeling and let that sink in and marinate without feeling like we have to move on to the next thing,
Yeah. You have to feel it to be able to heal it. Otherwise, you're just going to drag it under the rug, and then it's going to grow and be worse. So yeah, I mean, that is like life coach sort of 101 is feeling it. And I think a lot of time that's also the challenge with, there's a lot of talk, especially on Instagram, with toxic positivity, where a lot of women feel like, people are like, it's okay, you can try again. Don't give up. You've got this. And feeling it is the step you have to take before you can go to that next, to the positive outcome, to the focusing what you want. So man, I'm a crier. I feel all the things, but because of it, I can move on and I can take the next step. And so I think it's really important. And waterproof mascara is literally my best friend. Because that's the other thing my mom said is don't ever leave the house without mascara. So waterproof mascara and planning for plan B and C is, that's my household, our family rules. But I feel like I'm just being silly now. But I did want to open up to anybody who's here right now. If you have any questions, I did see that there was one. Also, we'd love to know where people are joining us from. So share, because right now I'm seeing South Carolina, Chicago, Florida, California. Woohoo, that's awesome. All over the US, all the time zones. I did see one question. It is, how do you find the best way to market your product?
Oh, that's fun. I've been focusing on customer relationships. So I have, every message that I get on Instagram, I respond, I ask them what they thought of the product, what they would change. And I just use all that data that will inform, anything that needs to get tweaked a little bit. So I really want to make sure that this product is serving the demographic, which is women who are experiencing infertility. And then I think it's just like the rigmarole of a little bit of paid ads, a little bit of SEO and content work and some PR, but it's never ending and always changing, which makes marketing really fun. And one of the actually like the creative aspects of this company that I really love is the marketing and thinking about how to get the message out, because, that post helped us get in touch with a lot of women, but there are still more, that was one platform. So part of this also is diversification of the channels that we're using to communicate the message. So
yeah. Well, you have to start somewhere, right? You can't conquer all of it at once. And
yeah.
I love that you're asking for the feedback all the time to adjust. I think that it's pretty cool to be that open-minded about it and make sure that it's fitting the needs of the women who are going to be using it.
Yeah. And they have the best ideas, right? Like, women who experience something know exactly what they're experiencing. So if you just ask them, they will tell you, and you'll be like, oh, of course, we should do that. That's the thing we do, because people are telling you, rather than me making it up or assuming that I know. I've tried to make as few of assumptions that I can about what we might need as a community. So I've really been, I don't know, there must be a metaphor for it. I'm going like this with my hands, like maybe it's spreading it out, but I've cast a large net of people who might have ideas and opinions.
Well, I think it's also one of the things about your company. You did go through it though. So you do have that sensitivity and you are starting from a place of being aware. Now things might have adjusted since you've gone through it yourself. And so
Yeah.
being open to that feedback, I think, is really valuable. But that's also the difference with the other companies that do offer these. Like there's competition. They're in every big box store that, or company store that sells, like CVS and Walgreens, right? You can grab them. I mean, even I think about it, like partners and husbands who aren't in the infertility world, like they wouldn't know about your company necessarily. They would, if sent by their spouse, they would just go to that aisle and pick all of them. So I think it's really interesting to know that you do market though and have resonated so well with the infertility community. And because of that, and because of your support, you're being lifted up. And that's what's going to help. It's like you're patting each other on the back.
Yeah, 1000%. Yeah. I always ask people, like, they're like, what can I do to help share or, help you? And sometimes it's hard to come up with those ideas because I'm like, you've helped, like, oh my God, you have helped. You launched my company for me. And so I think, the question I always have is, like, what can I do for you? Like giving back. Well, that's another thing in the company, like giving back to women is at the forefront, and it is the cornerstone of everything this company has been built around, which is like, it's women's empowerment, it's taking back our confidence, making the decisions that are best for our body, and giving back to women who might not have access to infertility treatment or prenatal health care for moms at risk. That it feels very global in the way I think about it, as like women who are experiencing infertility or pregnancy in our body. That's a shared experience that we have. And so just really harnessing that and making sure that people feel like they've arrived, they found a home where they can be themselves, and someone who sees them and understands what they're going through.
I think that's so powerful. And you talk about giving back. And so you do a lot of charity sort of, or your plan is to give back, right? Some profits to charities.
Yeah, we give $1 from each sale.
Okay. And then you also, do you want to share the special you talked about for people?
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of giving back.
Giving back, yeah. We have a BOGO deal that was launched, when everyone launched my company, and I just said, we'll give a BOGO deal, buy one, get one. But I wanted to just extend it to this group, even though it's ended, and it's just the code KIKI, KIKI, capital. And it's buy one, get one pregnancy tests. No, that's not true. It's buy 4, get 4 pregnancy tests. They are early results, and the lines are really dark. This is one of the things that I really wanted, right? I was like, they have to be like the darkest you can get them. So our lines are dark. There's less interpretation with them, but they're early results. So you can test early, up to 5 days before your missed period.
That's cool. So I appreciate that. So if you're watching, go ahead and go to her website. And I think is it juliet.com or it's meet-juliet.com.
Yeah, Juliet was too expensive for my savings account.
Okay, so meet-juliet.com. Go there and use the code with my nickname Kiki, and it's all capitalized, so KIKI, and you will get the BOGO deal on the buy 4 you get 4, which is pretty awesome. That being said, I have to say, and Heather, I already talked to you about this, but my placement on this is to not pee on a stick like 3 times a day for 7 days in a row. I do not support that and encourage that. I do think that pregnancy tests are very valuable and they are part of the experience. And let me tell you, I peed on all of my tests on beta day. But so I don't want you to think that this is me saying go out and pee every 3 hours on these tests, because I think that there's enough of an emotional roller coaster, and that's just adding like 3 more rides that are unnecessary. And I really encourage my clients and the people I work with who do the 2-week wait challenge to wait to pee on a stick until beta test day, and when it is the time when and it gives you the double lines, it does feel really good. And I don't think either one of us is trying to take away from that moment either.
Right.
So
even
you save that.
If you got the positive blood test, then like you would have to pee on a pregnancy test because you've taken so many and you're like, look at what it looks like. Like you would have to celebrate that.
Yeah, and it's for like the baby book and it's part of the story. That's the other thing is I find with a couple of my clients, like they're so hurt by the number of negative pregnancy tests they've had that they don't want to test. They want to just rely on the beta test because it's like a trigger for them. But then also what happens is they're also not taking bump photos and things like that. While everybody do you, right? I want people to be aware that this is all part of the story of the journey to your baby. So it's hard, but having the positive pregnancy test or you're feeling with it is such a good thing to put into the baby book for the start of when it's the good news moving forward on that journey. So Heather, I'm so glad you're here. Does anybody have any other questions for her while we still have her attention joining us? Oh, follow her on Instagram. Again, I think it's Meet Juliet.
Yes.
Okay. So follow her on Instagram. I've definitely tagged her in my promotions too, but her Instagram account is so inspirational and hopeful. And so I'd love for you to continue following her. There we go. What are some retailers you're trying to get into? That's a good question.
Ooh, like in-person sales types of things. I haven't done that yet. And part of the reason why is because I think I want to offer such a personalized customer experience. And I also am really interested in growing organically. So getting into the targets or the CVSs, while that is definitely in the years long plan, it's not in the 6-month plan. I've just been focused on the people who are buying now. But there are some really cool online platforms. There are platforms that are aggregating like women's health products. And so things like that, I would love to be involved in places like that. But I'm not selling on Amazon. I'm not going to the Walmart route. This is far more of a personal experience than, just choosing something off, I don't know, a product page. I'm like scrolling, thinking of what it's like. But
I think the key though too is, I love the personal touch aspect of it. And it feels like you want to know, like, so the woman buying from you knows that also it's like, you're probably sending out like love and support when you send out that package. Like, it's not just like, oh, thanks for the money. It's like, here, you're supported and here's a virtual hug.
Yeah.
But also what it requires though, is it requires pre-planning, right? Like you cannot just go out. So I'm sure, what is the plan with shipping or how long it takes?
It's 1 to 3 days, although we can get 2-day shipping pretty easily. It's just a couple bucks more. But the goal is to be in a position where we're competing with brands like Amazon and you can get those tested in 2 days. And I think we can get there. I'm working with another fulfillment center on figuring out how we can make that work. But access is really important. Shipping time matters. And you don't want your tests the day after you need them. And so
Right.
It's definitely at top of mind that this is something I'd like to figure out. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think it's important for people to know too. So it's not like it's a 2-week turnaround time
No, well,
either.
so the problem with the community launching my company was that I didn't have enough product for the community to launch I had what I thought was a really big order. And my goal was like, in 6 months, I'm going to sell out of all of these things. And then it happened in hours. I mean, I had enough, what I thought was enough for 6 months was enough for 9 hours. And so we are shipping, there's a week waiting period for me to get this next batch of product. Which is in transit. So we're hoping to ship on February 9th. I think that's the Monday.
Okay.
So a
Okay.
few days out. Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I think it's good for people, again, to plan it. And the cost of your, even without the special promo that you're helping share with people right now, your cost of your tests are competitive with the big box stores too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about $5. It is $5 a test. But these are early results tests, and you can get your answer sooner.
Yeah, and I was telling her, I was just at CVS and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna look only because I'm talking to you tonight." And I think I saw there was like $20 for 2 tests.
Yeah. They're really overpriced. And
They're really overpriced.
when you're buying pregnancy tests, because, some people are buying 20 a month. Some people are buying 1 or 2, but like, if whatever quantity you're buying, if you're buying them for 6 months, a year, 4 years, I mean, that's obscene. That's enough to like take vacations or do something that's more enjoyable than taking
Yeah.
a pregnancy test. But they shouldn't be that expensive. They just simply should not be that expensive. There's major markup on them. And I wasn't about the markup. So I went in at what we need to stay afloat as a company, but not what was going to, make us a ton of money. This is about more than the income.
So there is competition for them now. And it's so interesting too, because you almost think like with the personal touch that you talk about and the messaging that is so on target, like my instinct as like a consumer would be like, it's going to be more expensive. And so to know that it's even less, it's like home run, game changer. And I'm just so excited to know that you've created this. I think the infertility world, and like you said, women who are hoping to become mothers are, I think it's going to make a real impact on all of them. So I'm so glad that we connected and our worlds collided. I mean, clearly this is the club I don't think anybody wants to be in, but once you do get in, the amount of support and women who and men, there's people on various areas who can help, like there's IVF journals and calendars and guides and specific baby books. And there's, nutritionists who or specialize in it. And then now the pregnancy tests and ovulation tests, like how wonderful coaches, like there's a lot out there for you going through to know that you're not alone and that we understand and your feelings are valid, your feelings are normal, your feelings are welcome here, and there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah, it feels nice to feel seen,
Mm-hmm.
As a woman going through infertility. It's like, wow, people get what I'm going through.
Right. And neither one of us can touch everybody. So to know that we're doing our part to be where we fit in to help reach the women that need us and our help. It's awesome that there's just so much out there. Even the doctors that we've worked with and had on this workshop, it's like they are on this workshop and they understand the emotional aspect. I mean, they're talking with me as the life coach. And so they understand that end of the day, you're the one going to bed or trying to go to bed and thinking about this. And so they're the experts in the body side and how your body responds and what's best for you in that regard. But there's so much additional support out there. And so Heather's one of those people who's doing it with a product that you can buy online and hopefully get, in 2 days. And it's just really nice to know this community is filled with such supportive, helpful women. Yeah. So Heather, I'm so grateful to have met you and to have you here and help share your story.
This has been so fun.
Yay. Is there anything that you wanted to say before we get going?
Thank you for allowing me to talk today. This has been really fun. And if I can do anything to support people through Juliet, or if there's something that doesn't feel right, I'd love to hear about it. But yeah, we're in learning mode. So I'm here to listen.
It is important, I think, for people to know, but also appreciate that you are sort of like this one woman shop who's getting help. But like, this is you doing it, and it's a side gig too. You have a full-time job. And so respecting that aspect from you too. But I think that that's just even more, just shows the love that you have for this to be able to handle all that.
It's a love of chaos, maybe. That might be something I need coaching on.
I'm here for it. Well,
like,
I'm so.
You always feel like a storm.
Yeah, that's a pretty big storm here. But you're resilient, and you know you can handle it.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, Heather, thank you so much. For anybody who's been joining, we do this every month. I would love to have you come again, and I do share the replays every time. So even if you can't come in future months, I'm glad you're here, and I look forward to talking to you. And so I'm going to say bye to Heather and stop the recording. And